My name is Travis Bristol. I teach 12th grade English at the Urban Assembly School for Law and Justice in Brooklyn, New York. I'm from East New York, Brooklyn, and there is something rewarding about teaching from a place where you're from. I am a product of the New York City public school system. I teach my class in many ways to how I was taught when I was in college. And so those things that I learned when I was in college, how to think for myself, how to answer difficult questions, how to connect my ideas to something that my classmate may have said or my professor may have said. That's the way that I structure my class. My students sit in a circle. I am throwing out some sort of question to them. They are somehow responding to my question. What's Ellison doing when he talks about Todd Clifton? I tell my students that I'm not the only teacher in the class. I'm the only person in the class who's being paid to be a teacher, but you all in this class can teach. I can say honestly that I'm learning something from my students about the world or about their perception of the world. When authors write, they're just commenting on what they see in society. And so when I teach a text, I'm able to have conversations about anything really in society, as long as I can link it to the text. I have the opportunity to expose students to Shakespeare. I have the opportunity to expose students to Ralph Ellison. And so I can go from one day talking about Iraq, I can go to talking about something happening on global warming, desegregation, whatever, because books are just social commentaries. And so I can comment about society all the time. This community is an economically disadvantaged community. And every day when I look across the street, I see a housing development. I recognize that if my students are not prepared to move from those types of places, those types of situations, those types of circumstances, that if I'm not preparing them, then that's where they're going to return. The statistics are 60% of Black and Latino males who do not graduate from high school end up in jail. If I know that is the cycle, then when I teach NYC, my job, my moral obligation is to break that cycle. And I think education is the only place. Education is the equalizer in this country. I don't think when I started teaching, I thought about what it meant to be a teacher of color, right? I just wanted to be a teacher because I enjoyed teaching and reading books and talking about books. As I began to teach, I recognized that many of my students saw me first as a person of color and then as a teacher. And so that somehow changed the dynamic. So whether I wanted to be seen as a teacher, without skin color, without ethnicity, my students saw me as that. And so I was sort of forced to, learn to be comfortable in that interaction and respond in that way. If I recognize that I want my students to be able to walk into a boardroom or to an office and feel comfortable in that, I think that I need to learn how to model that within myself. So this path, this journey that I've come on is in many ways been because my students have forced me to see myself this way, and so in many ways I've learned that I need to sort of play this role. I do believe that every day that I leave here that I'm doing something that somehow forces my students to think about the world differently, that forces my students to want to aspire to something greater than they aspired to the day before. For my seniors, this is their last opportunity. This is the last chance that I have to get it right. And having the ever-present reminder of the housing development that is across the street, that if they don't get it right, that if I can't push them to get it right, then this terrible cycle continues. I teach NYC because I have a job as a citizen to make the world a better place. If I could say one thing to someone thinking about coming to teach in New York City, I would say, come. There is no city like New York City.